Is coronavirus outbreak a Chinese conspiracy to rule the world, or COVID-19 American ploy to keep its supremacy over the world? Is coronavirus mutated and transmitted to humans as natural zoonosis, or is coronavirus genetically engineered to make it more dangerous and deadly? Did the virus emerge naturally, or it accidentally got leaked or released deliberately? I may rather not delve into bringing a new conspiracy theory, but will rather present some starting facts that would help you gain deep insight with right perspective into the COVID-19 pandemic outbreak, an insight that is necessary to understand the exact cause behind the sufferings and agony of 133 crore Indians and billions of brothers and sisters across the world, 38,700 of whom have already lost their lives, around 6 lakhs have infected, and nearly 2 lakhs have fortunately recovered by now. I am sure you would definitely want to know who is behind the sufferings of mankind, or at least what led to the release of virus that has put around billions of people under lockdown for weeks and months together and put on a stake the very existence of mankind. Hello and welcome. My name is Shailesh Kumar. I am a freelance independent Indian journalist, having reported for leading Indian television brands for 16 years. I have my background in life sciences, and to be precise, I have worked in biotech project as senior research fellow before venturing into full-time journalism. Through this story, I do not intend to defame or hurt interests of any individual, company or country. Rather, I am attempting to bring some facts with perspective that may help governments, policymakers and agencies in India and across continents to get alert and be warned to save their citizens and national interests, moreover to save mankind. References for this story are given at the end of this video. As per researches conducted so far, it is given to understand by scientific community, particularly the Chinese, that the novel coronavirus 2019 came from horseshoe bats and perhaps through intermediate host pangolin. It all began on 17th October 2014 when National Institute of Health, the top biomedical and public health research regulatory body of United States of America, banned gain-of-function research. Gain-of-function experiments are genetic experiments to enhance the virulence and transmission of pathogens like coronavirus from animal to human and human to human, such as bird flu, SARS or MERS. Scientists have been raising questions if such genetically modified viruses, if leaked from labs, can cause pandemic and kill millions of people. The US government's ban on October 2014 came in the backdrop of 2 such accidents. In one accident, at least 75 scientists at the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention were exposed to anthrax in June 2014 when a federal scientist accidentally contaminated a relatively benign avian influenza strain with the deadly H5N1 bird flu virus in part. The mistake was discovered when test chickens died. A few weeks later, US Food and Drug Administration employees found 16 forgotten vials of smallpox in storage. This was a major cause of concern. Hence, NIH, led by its director Francis Collins, put a moratorium on gain-of-function research projects. Eminent scientists raised objections about gain-of-function research. Such experiments have potential to cause pandemic and wipe out humans from the face of the earth. One of the scientists worst hit by this moratorium was Professor Ralph Baric, Department of Epidemiology, University of North Carolina. Ralph Baric and his team always worked on coronaviruses, and in 2015 they published a research paper in Nature Medicine confirming that their genetically engineered chimeric coronavirus could infect human airway cells and cause disease in mice. For the purpose, they engineered a coronavirus using surface protein of SHC014 coronavirus found in horseshoe bats in China and the backbone of one that caused human-like severe acute respiratory syndrome SARS in mice. Their experiments proved that coronaviruses found in bat species may be capable of leaping to human population without first evolving in intermediate host. This crucial research was funded by US Agency for International Development, established its Emerging Pandemic Threat Program. The EPT program consists of 4 projects: predict, respond, identify, and prevent. But Ralph Baric and his team, including Timothy Sheehan and Lisa Gralinsky, overcome this moratorium very shortly, as they successfully convinced US NIH that their work was not so risky to fall under the moratorium. Moreover, the work was started weeks before moratorium came into being. However, at that time, many leading researchers across the world raised questions over the Baric's reverse engineering research, saying it provided little benefit and revealed little about the risk that the wild SHC014 CoV virus in bats posed to humans. Rather, the only impact of this work is the creation of non-natural risk in the lab in the form of bioengineered chimeric virus. Interestingly, the genetic engineering of this wild SARS virus found in Chinese horseshoe bats was done by 2 Chinese scientists, namely Shizheng Li and Xingai Ge, both from Wuhan Institute of Virology, Wuhan in China. Remember, the coronavirus pandemic COVID-19 first emerged and spread in Wuhan. Whether the virus was leaked from Wuhan Institute of Virology or it originated from Huanan seafood market in Wuhan, as is being rumored, we will discuss this too. Before we move on to other crucial aspects, we must find an answer as why US National Institute of Health waived off the moratorium to Ralph Baric's gain of research function experiments. Not only that, one of its top affiliated institute, National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, NIAID, led by Anthony S. Fauci, provided a grant of $6 million to Ralph Baric and his co-principal investigator, Timothy Sheehan. You will be surprised to know that the partnership grant of $6 million established a collaboration between the Gilling School and Gilead Sciences Incorporation, Vanderbilt University Medical Center, and the University of Texas Medical Branch, Vanderbilt University Medical Center, led by Mark Dennison, was behind the identification of a compound GS5734, also known as remdesivir, developed by Gilead Sciences Incorporation. Today, remdesivir is the first and foremost among the drugs being tested in clinical trials against coronavirus in many countries, including China. The day a senior official made claims that remdesivir has potential to treat COVID-19, its shares rose highest in 59 weeks. It was a perfect collaboration between Dr. Baric, Dr. Shizheng Li, and Dennison and Gilead and US Department of Defense. Yes, Pentagon. Involvement of US DoD is shocking but true. Dr. Baric received original horseshoe bat virus feeder stock of Dr. Shizheng Li, the bat woman of China, who collected coronavirus samples from bats from caves in Guangdong, Guangxi, and Yunnan province for almost 16 years. Bats, particularly horseshoe bats, are natural carrier of coronavirus. Dr. Shizheng Li and Xingai Ge with Dr. Baric's team genetically modified the coronavirus, augmenting it with SHC014 protein array that gave it more infecting power, at least 20 times more than natural coronavirus, and made it more lethal. In turn, experts questioned Dr. Barik allegedly agreed to transfer newly augmented virus back to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, the Biosafety Lab P4. By now, the Zhengli became the head of the P4 lab. Armed with full know-how of nanobiogenetic engineering, Dr. Shi Zhengli further allegedly augmented the coronavirus with the incorporation of HIV genetic markers that had a stronger affiliation for furin catalyst protein bond cleavage site. This bond is perceived to be 1,000 times stronger than the ACE2 protein bond of typical SARS coronavirus. Mind it. A few Indian scientists published their findings as preprint on Bior 14 server, but had to retract following objections that it did not have peer review. They found that the coronavirus may have been genetically engineered to incorporate parts of the HIV genome. A new research by a team from Nankai University confirmed that COVID-19 has an HIV-like mutation that allows it to quickly enter the human body by binding with a receptor called ACE2 on a cell membrane. But Chinese shrewdly termed it a mutation. Subsequent analysis confirmed that this cannot be a natural mutation but a laboratory augmentation for a weaponized designer contagion or a vaccine strain of coronavirus. If it was not natural jump over, so now question comes, was it deliberately released or an accidental release? Dr. Shi Zhengli claimed that it has come from pets and originated in Hunan seafood market. She swore by her life claiming that it did not leak from her lab. But one thing is for sure, it did not transmit it naturally from pets as at the time of Wuhan outbreak. Most bat species in the region were hibernating. Mind it, they were hibernating. Moreover, the Chinese horseshoe bat's habitat is spread across the region, especially Yunnan, Guangdong and Guangxi, which are 100,000 kilometers away from Wuhan, containing scores of cities and hundreds of million people. Why does a strain of coronavirus, the Wuhan strain of coronavirus, now known as COVID-19, emerged in close proximity to only Wuhan Institute of Virology, a BSL-4 virology lab in China, and not any other region or city to begin with? Second, a Chinese professor Lu's study revealed that no bats were sold or found at the Hunan seafood market in Wuhan, whereas various non-aquatic animals, including mammals, were available for purchase. In the last, but not the least, the sequence identity between 2019 nCoV, that its close relatives bat SLCoV ZC45 and bat SLCoV ZX was less than 20%. Hence, these bat coronavirus are not direct ancestors of COVID. How it got released will come later, but let's first discuss the role of Department of Defense in research carried out by Chinese researcher Shi Zhengli. In a 30-year career, Dr. Zhengli started getting large funds from 2014 onwards, often getting overlapping grants for research on coronavirus. Lot of this fund originated from US government. On January 6, 2014, Professor Zhengli received a US $6,65,000 grant from the National Institute of Health for a study named The Ecology of Bat Coronaviruses and the Risk of Future Coronavirus Emergence, and then 4 days later on 10th January 2014, an additional grant of 5 lakhs or $59,500 from the United States Agency of International Development for research studies entitled Emerging Pandemics Threats Predict to China. On top of these lucrative American grants, she concurrently received similar significant grants from the National Basic Research Program of China, the Chinese Academy of Sciences, the National Science Foundation of China, and from the Strategic Priority Research Program of Chinese Academy of Sciences, totaling over $250,000 for researching interspecies transmission of zoonotic viruses. In just the past 5 years alone, Professor Shi Zhengli almost got 10 million US dollars in grant to study coronaviruses. Even more concerning, on October 31, 2019, just a few weeks before the outbreak of Wuhan coronavirus, Professor Shi Zhengli had published a report entitled "Filovirus Reactive Antibodies in Humans and Bats in Northeast India Imply Zoonotic Spillover," curiously funded by the US Department of Defense, the US Defense Threat Reduction Agency, the US Biological Defense Research Directorate of Naval Medical Research Center, and mind it, Department of Atomic Energy of Government of India, and edited by the microbiologists employed by the US Center for Disease Control. Professor Zhengli's CV indicates she received a visa to the United States to present at the US-China Dialogue on the challenges of emerging infections, laboratory safety, and global health security conference on January 17, 2018 in Galveston, Texas. However, such a conference appears to not have existed. For what purpose did she really come to Galveston? Perhaps to visit the Galveston National Laboratory, a very high security national biocontainment laboratory housing several biosafety level 4 research laboratories, one of the only 15 biosecurity level 4 facility in the United States, and the largest one in the world, located on an academic campus. Was this apparently imaginary conference merely a ruse for a surreptitious rendezvous? It is puzzling if Professor Zhengli infiltrated US Department of Defense or US defense agencies were cultivating Professor Shi Zhengli. To my mind, US Department of Defense funded the coronavirus research by Chinese national Shi Zhengli only to gain access to information on China's biological warfare program in China's biosafety level 3 or 4 labs. Much after returning from USA in November 2017, Professor Zhengli warned that severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus or SARS-CoV is considered to be an emerging zoonotic pathogen crossing species barriers to infect humans, and that the spike protein of the virus RNA genome plays a key role in human cellular entry. In that same month, the results of a study Professor Zhengli conducted, serological evidence of bat SARS related coronavirus infected in humans, China indicated that some SARS-CoVs may have high potential to infect human cells without the necessity for an intermediate host. In 2017, one of the directors at Wuhan Institute of Virology posted the annual director's message with top announcement. And what was that announcement? The live SARS-like coronavirus SARS-CoV WIV1 has been isolated for the first time from the bat droppings, and such virus has been confirmed to invade the host cells through the ACE2 of human beings, civets and Rhinolophus sinicus, the bat. The research result has so far provided the most convincing evidence to the view that Rhinolophus sinicus is the natural host of SARS-CoV. Experts point out that this sounds precisely like coronavirus 2019 nCoV, which invades the host cells through the ACE2 protein. While we discuss the role of Shi Zhengli and her colleague Xingai Ge, it is important to understand that China has been trying to steal technology and knowledge from West to build its own capacity through 1,000 Talents program, as well as by luring US scientists, as was in the case of Harvard nanobiotechnologist Charles Lieber, who was arrested by FBI very recently on 28th January after the corona outbreak. Similarly, Xianggo Q and her husband Keding Cheng was still under investigation by RCMP for allegedly policy breach in high-level 4 biosecurity Winnipeg lab. They were accused of unauthorized shipment of virus to China. Q allegedly made several trips to China. It is not an unknown fact that both USA and China have been developing bioweapons in the garb of high-level pathogen research. Before we come to how coronavirus emerged in Wuhan, we should look at a few new emerging facts. Gilead Sciences Incorporation, well after creation of chimeric coronavirus, filed a patent in 2016 in China to patent its drug remdesivir, but the company was yet not granted patent by Chinese authorities. Surprisingly, in early February, Wuhan Institute of Virology along with China's Military Medicine Institute has also filed a patent categorized as use patent for drug. Even if China's patent application is granted, it will not cause Gilead to lose rights in China. Anyone who wants to use remdesivir would still need to license it from the US company, Gilead Sciences Incorporation. But if both patents stand, Gilead and China must get licenses from each other. If Gilead resists licensing the drug, China also has the right under WTO rules to declare an emergency and compel Gilead to participate. This would shrink Gilead's profits because it would no longer have a monopoly. In any case, these profits are going to be billions of dollars. By the way, Gilead is known to be a price gouging company who reportedly sold a HIV drug at 1,000 US dollar, that means 84,000 for 84 days prescription. So here there is a huge money. But by the way, how much grant Gilead gave to Barracks Lab? Do you remember me telling you? $6 million precisely. Just compare the investment versus returns. But if the corona outbreak would not have happened, no one would buy these drugs. Brightgate Biomedical Technology Company in China in February claimed that it has mass produced and stockpiled remdesivir. Soon after announcement on 12th February this year, stocks of Brightgate soared up to 60%. Surprisingly, the parent company of Brightgate is Gilead Sciences Incorporation. However, Shanghai Stock Exchange reprimanded Brightgate for announcement as it has yet not got the drug approval from Chinese authorities. In any case, the drug is still under clinical trial stage and vaccine would take some more months in development. What does it suggest overall? You can imagine. Virus did not emerge automatically and naturally from pets or intermediate host. Rather, 2019 nCoV, a clinical strain of coronavirus, perhaps got released accidentally during human clinical trial, or perhaps in other likelihood, a laboratory researcher becoming infected with the virus while conducting animal experiments. We should understand one thing, that besides researchers, Wuhan Institute of Virology would have many workers, not only virologists, but also cleaners and people who look after animals as they do experiments on animals. Most likely, one of these workers was infected by coronavirus and unknowingly took it outside. After a few contacts, it reached the nearby Hunan seafood market, which is a local gathering spot. From there, it disseminated in Wuhan and then further to other cities and countries. These are some facts that with perspective which formed my opinion in this story. If I am given some new facts, I may change my opinion in future. Only time will tell who is a monster or who turns out to be a savior or who is a monster savior. But I wish to bring it to the notice of Government of India three things. First, that it is urgently pertinent to make a list for surveillance as who are the people, scientists, porters who have worked with Professor Xi Zhengli in India. Second, to nullify any attempt of big pharma companies to control price of the drugs nominated to combat COVID-19. Third, to align with like-minded nations to launch nanoforensic investigations, which requires more than just a scanning electron microscope to bring the culprit to book for a crime against humanity if it is a man-made pandemic. Thank you for watching. If you have some questions, you may write in comment box of the video. I may try to answer them in another story. Stay home, stay safe, stay healthy. May God bless us all. Thank you.